Alright guys, welcome to the video. Today we're going to upgrade this setup that I've got here. We're going to add cooling to the Bobcat since it's in the attic, and let me show you what we're doing. I want to say, before you do anything, detach the power cord, detach your Ethernet, detach the antenna in that order. Always unplug first before you tinker with any of this. Then pull the miner down, unscrew it. I decided so I could give myself plenty of time to work, take the top off, plug it back in, do it in reverse order. Antenna, Ethernet, and then power. Then you can just leave it here to run while you're tinkering with doing your cooling upgrade. All right, so here I am on the other side of that setup. Got the antenna wire popped through. Now, I already started this, but I said I wanted to make the video after I started it. So, you pop the cover off the Bobcat. How do you do that? There are 4 screws. Use a T9 Torx screwdriver. Doesn't matter if it's a T9H, all you need is a T9, and it has to be a decent bit long, maybe about an inch, about at least that long there. That one got it out, but it has to reach down through these long holes here. And there is not a 5th one in the middle. I made that mistake. I tried to figure out if there was a 5th screw. There is not. You just pop the top off. All right, guys, so here's what we're going to need for this project today. I anticipate cutting out the circle with my jigsaw, maybe popping a hole in the miner with the, or in the miner lid with a big drill bit to get the jigsaw in there to cut the circle. My multi-tool, planning on opening these vents up on the side. I don't think this is going to be enough cooling for a fan on top of here. I'm just going to open these up so that we get some air flowing through there. We got the T9 Torx set. This was 10 bucks at Harbor Freight. Blades for the jigsaw. You want an array of drill bits because we're going to be popping holes in here to bolt the fan to the lid. What else we got here? AC Finity dual fan set. This was 20 bucks on Amazon. Kind of a weird setup. As you can see, the they link together permanently in the middle. I could add a fan to this USB here later if I want to do a push-pull setup and add a 3rd fan. I don't think I'm going to need that. And then you've got about 4 feet plus of run here. So the plan is to simply trace it out, cut the 4 holes, bolt it to the lid, cut the intakes. I'm making it an intake so that it pulls heat off the miner. Screw back to the miner. And then the second one, since this setup's in an attic, as you saw, I'm going to want it in the attic vent pulling hot air out of the attic because I'm here in LA and the attic does get pretty hot here, so I'm a little worried about it. So we're going to do 2 fans. I don't know if I mentioned these were, both of them were 20 bucks, this whole set on Amazon. I busted out my Bobcat box here. I don't really need it, but there's a bunch of hardware in here that I didn't use when I first got the Bobcat. So I might use this to mount the fans. I won't need to run to Home Depot, which will be nice. Now, let me also note that there's a guy online that produces this setup. It's 40 bucks. I forgot if he sells it on eBay or where it is. He 3D prints a new lid for you, bolts a fan to it. I think it's controllable like this one, you know, with a simple control for the speed. 40 bucks. For a lot of people, that's going to be the best way to go. If you don't have these tools or if you're not handy, I definitely give a shout out to that guy. Buy that thing, slap it on your miner and go. For a guy like me, I'm a DIY guy. I'd rather do it myself. I spent half and got 2 fans, and I feel like I don't need to preserve this cover. Once I put cooling on this, it's going to have cooling forever. So it's like I don't see any reason to preserve this like it's something to keep, like I'm going to sell it down the road, because I'm not. This thing is just going to mine itself into oblivion, and it's going to have cooling the entire time. So I'm going to modify this lid. How are we going to do that? All right, well, these fans here, as you can see, are designed with rubber feet on them. We're going to unscrew these rubber feet. There's 2 grills on either side. I only need 1 of them. So we're going to pull that off. And then basically my plan is to just take the marker, you know, take the grills out, stick the marker down in there, trace it, cut the hole, you know, mark my 4 holes, cut those, bolt it to the lid, snap the lid back on, ready to go. You know, and I've got it set up. I'm not using PoE or anything. I go straight into a power strip, so I'm just going to use one of my old Apple plugs on this. go in the power strip that the miner's on, mount that thing as another exhaust in the attic so to pull some hot air out, and I think we're good to go. So I'm going to show you guys that process now, just because there's not a whole lot of information on this stuff online or on YouTube, and about what you need. I noticed a thing, people were saying T9H, which I believe has a hole in the middle. You don't need that. A regular T9. This whole kit here was $10. You can get an even cheaper one, just the little bits for your screwdriver if you want, and go even cheaper, $5 or whatever if you order it. But yeah, T9 will take the miner apart. And I think that's it. Let's go ahead and execute the plan. Okay, so to trace it, just got some regular painter's tape. Taped it. Put it on there. Now I just double checked to make sure that this fan is perfectly square, and it is. It's 4 11/16. Now what I'm going to do when I trace this, I'm going to put it a little bit more toward the front, because I don't know if you notice when you take this off, the back section here is reserved for the plugs. It kind of comes in a bit here. So really most of the electronics are kind of over here in this zone. We don't want to come too far out. We don't want to ruin our cool little light reflector there. But, you know, you don't want it all the way back either. You want it kind of up front here. That's about where I'm going to go. I'm going to leave a little bit of a little space here, maybe, you know, 1/4 inch. And I'm just going to eyeball it. I know you guys can go through, you know, if you want to pull out your tape or, you know, measure the sides and trace it, and, you know, make sure it's exactly perfect. Do whatever you got to do. I'm going to eyeball it. I can see that it's going to be pretty straight right there. Although I am one of those people that likes to get it right. So get it where you want it. I opted for pencil instead of my pen. It's a little sharper. I feel like it reaches down in there better. We're just going to lightly touch this, squeeze it down, and we're going to put our pencil into each slot and trace all the way around this, right, like this. Be nice to the blades. If you get hung up on a piece of tape or something, just be nice to the blades. All right, so now we're going to wind up with that, right? So we're also going to try to mark our holes, but I've got another technique of marking those straight down through the top once we've got this hole cut. We'll stick something down in here to make sure we're perfectly straight down through the hole instead of being to the side, although this does work too. So we're going to go ahead and cut this hole. We've got her traced. I'm thinking of something cool to do with this Bobcat logo. I feel like I could cut this out and do something with it, maybe. So I'm not going to drill a hole right here. I'm going to drill over here. Quick tip. The drill bit has to be wide enough, obviously, to get your jigsaw blade into the hole. I also am using a very old bit set. So sometimes you want to know if the bit is still sharp. You can test it right here on a piece of wood. As you can see, I have my scrap piece. See, and that bit should be plenty sharp to cut through this plastic. It's a big bit. And you can also test your blade. Plenty big enough to get the blade in there so that we can cut the circle out. Another tip, when you go to cut this, we're not pressing down onto it very much. It's delicate. It's kind of brittle plastic. So when we cut this, we just want to let the blade do the work. Let the bit do the work. Just a little bit of pressure. Now hold on to it. When it pops through, it might catch. See it? See that? Okay. So you want to be careful of that. Okay, there we go. Now we've got our hole. So we're ready to cut. One thing to note before we do. Very thin margin of error here. See this? If we were to make the cut and come out wide, we're going to leave a hole in the lid out here. It's going to be unsightly. I don't know if it'll really matter, but better air pressure if it fits it perfectly. So how do we do that? Well, when we trace this, we traced it on the inside, right? It's on the inside. So if we leave the line behind when we cut this piece, meaning we're going to cut on the inside of this line. We're going to let the blade, don't try to hit it right directly. This is this is basic stuff from carpentry if you're into this. Have the blade run on this side and follow the line with the side of the blade so that you know you're on the inside and you're going to have a straighter cut. If you try to follow the line with the blade, nobody's going to cut this perfectly. It's going to be, everybody's going to have a little bit of offness, but if you're going to err, I'd say err to the inside. So when you do that, cut it on the inside. Got a couple of pieces of scrap down here just to make sure that when you're coming through with the jigsaw, you have the clearance to get in there. And before you commit to cutting this, just take a practice. And again, I'm going to kind of keep this Bobcat. I have a good idea for this, maybe, but let's just see how this is going to cut. We might want a slightly lower speed. You got to have your, know what kind of tool you're using. I think I'm going to go lower speed. If I have to change it, I will. And again, I'm just going to do, let's get it in here so that the camera can see what I'm doing. But I'm just going to do a quick test before I run out to that circle. Now again here, this is a delicate cover. It's made out of nice plastic, but we don't want to put all kinds of weight on this, lean on it, press on it. We're being nice. We're letting the tool do the work. See, now just based on my test cut here, I want a little bit faster. I want to go a little bit faster. I'm going to go to like a 5. Yeah, that's better. So see how you can practice off your hole. So now what we're going to do is we're going to just get in here and cut this bad boy out. I'd rather not do this on camera. I could really concentrate without this camera in front of me. Let's try it. Don't do that. Don't reach in and touch the blade. See that? I don't know if you can see, but I'm a little bit on the outside. Okay, and we're just going to continue like that all the way around, and I'll show you guys once I'm done. Alright, so we got through. Rough cut, but let's check it out. So look at that, it fits the opening perfectly, no gaps. Better to be a little bit narrow than a little wide, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to come around and just sand this edge clean with a piece of sandpaper. Next, we're going to go ahead and pop our 4 holes here to attach the fan. A couple of tips. Keep your fan out of the zone when you're cutting. I got my brand new fan all dirty, even though it's going to get dirty anyway, no big deal. But tip number 2, when you're almost through, you'll be, this is going to start to vibrate. So grab a hold of the part and this to keep it from vibrating as you're cutting the final edge. And at the end, you want to slow the tool down. Don't stay at high speed over here. It's going to start to rattle and vibrate and resonate. You want to hit a lower frequency resonance with the blade so that it doesn't vibrate, and just cut the very end of it very nice and smoothly. My DeWalt tool has a variable speed trigger here, which makes that easy, so I can just barely pull the trigger, or I can pull the trigger all the way, and of course it has a speed on the top, but makes it easier just at the end to kind of slow it down just a little bit and cut that very little last bit off. Makes a big mess. Alright, so we've got the cut. I went ahead and just darkened the 2 little marks that I had here. The upper 2 weren't really showing. It's hard for me to see them without my flashlight, so I'm going to go ahead and Try to line these up here. That looks nice. Looks nice. We're going to take one more peek at it. Just make sure it's all straight. I think it needs to come over just a bit. That looks nice on the marks down there. So how are we going to mark these straight? Well, we're just going to take a drill bit here. And again, we're going to press down, not too hard. Don't move it. Stick it straight down through. And it'll actually cut into the lid. Let's just make sure I got that other one I didn't fully spot. Okay, you see that? We've got our little marks here with the drill bit. Oh, and just for reference, the first hole I cut was with a 1/2-inch bit. And this hole I'm cutting is a 7/32 bit, and I've decided to go ahead and use the coarse plastic screws that came in the kit to just attach the fan. I don't need to use the bolts. You can do this, stick some bolts through, but those will just be easier. So now we're just going to go ahead and cut our 4 holes here. I'll show you the first one. Let's go here. See how this thing is now? I want to be very careful with this. It's now not very strong anymore, so you might want to support it just a little bit extra with something underneath it. And again, we're not pressing down real hard on this. We're letting the bit do the work. I'll show you the first one. You want to make sure it's center. Don't let it walk. Now I'm gonna stick my finger into here to support it. Okay. All right, so I just brought this up to see how we've done. Looks good. See what I mean about the fan kind of coming over the back cover here? It's fine. We hit the light perfectly, didn't hit the little thing inside, preserved all of that. The holes look nice. This is gonna cool. It's right over the chips. It's gonna cool very nicely. The reason I brought it up is to see how many of these fins here I want to cut out. And as you can see on the inside, it really, if we're going for airflow here, like there's no reason to mess around and leave that the way it is. It's just going to block air. And then I was thinking, cut the middle section out so it looks all nice and clean. It preserves the bottom one and the top one, and the top rail I'm talking about. Just cut this middle one out all the way across. Some of you guys might want to do that. It might be a cleaner look. I also notice that here are these little stiffening feet here that sit down onto little studs here. Now we don't want this fan to be vibrating around, although it's not going to bother anyone, but we want it to be nice and stiff and not vibrate and all be proper. So at this point I'm thinking, we'll continue this as I do it, but to cut the bottom 2 rows off just straight like that and leave those posts in the middle, and that'll open up airflow quite a bit, since that's what we're going for here. So yeah, I'm just gonna cut it off right here, leave the 4 pillars. There's a stiffener here, a pillar here, a little pillar there, and one here. So I'm just gonna cut it right on the sides of those, the bottom 2 rows, and open that up on both sides. And hopefully that looks good. Who cares really how it looks? It's really all about the function first. And that's why I'm thinking airflow, but again, I might wind up cutting those off. We'll see how stiff it is after I've got it cut. All right, got that done. That's how it looks. Thinking about cutting the little center ears off. It would leave a nice, much cleaner look, but when I set it down like this and I push right here, it has that support that it needs. I really like that. So, you know, it's kind of weak there. That's kind of how it would feel if it didn't have those 2 supports. Maybe you could cut one of them off on this side and cut one of them off on that side, so you have a crisscross here. I don't know. I kind of like the support. I'm going to leave those for now. You might ask, how did I do that? You can use the jigsaw here, although this is kind of a delicate cut. I went ahead and used the multi-tool, just like this. It just seems to me to be easier. I'll demonstrate that. Hopefully I cut this straight. I marked it with the marker on the last one, but since we are rolling, I will try to cut this straight right here. See, just like that. And then you just come through and get the other one. And then so on and so forth. All right, there we are. Now I'm just going to take some, just a piece of 100 grit sandpaper and just go around. I'm going to clean everything up. Just kind of get all the junk off of there. I'll vacuum up, and we'll be back with the install. All right, just gave it a sand. Just basically to knock off any plastic boogers. It's not a showpiece, guys. You know, it's just to make sure nothing gets into your miner. Make sure everything's nice and smooth in here. Oh, let's do the reveal. See how she turned out. See, look at that, guys. That's not bad. It's pretty professional results. It's gonna look great. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and get cleaned up. I'm actually gonna rinse this piece off just to make sure there's no plastic crap in there, and we'll be back. All right, so it turned out very nice. By the way, earlier when I said plastic screws, I just meant coarse thread screws that are meant to thread straight into the plastic of the fan. And that's what I used. These screws came with the AC-Finity kit with the grills. I took the grills off, so I just used their screws that they gave me. I didn't even have to go to the hardware store and get bolts. So let's see how it turned out. So I wanted my cord oriented up this way, just so I could reach to the other fan that's going to exhaust hot air from the whole attic. But that's pretty sweet, huh? All there is to it. I'll give her a test. Now we're ready to snap that back on upstairs. All right, now again, before we put this thing back together, we're gonna unplug. We're gonna unplug. And I'm gonna gently unplug my antenna here. I might redo this curve a little bit, bring it down a little further. Good time to check your little connections up here. Make sure those are all pressed on. Obviously don't do it while it's hot, don't do it while it's on. Make sure everything's good, you know, with your jumper wire here. I've heard people have had problems with these. So yeah, we'll go ahead and pop this off, get the cover on, get her plugged in, see how she functions. I really like the way these vents here turned out. I definitely recommend leaving the little pillars on here just to give it some rigidity on the side here. I definitely like that. This is the way to do it right here, guys. I was a little worried it would be ugly, but I think it's gorgeous. You can see the wide open. It has all the airflow it's ever going to need. Happy mining. I want to point out that it was about 34 degrees Celsius with the cover off when I checked it over the diagnoser, and now it's at 28 or 27 degrees Celsius. And this is February 2nd in Los Angeles, so it's pretty cool here. We'll see how it does through the summer. It does get extremely hot up here, and you know, just hope the miner survives the summer with this setup. All right, so we're all installed now. Kind of cleanly tied up the wires. I've got them set to high. I decided not to put the grill on here just because, what for? It's just going to catch dust and stuff. I want to evacuate the maximum amount of crap out of here that might, you know, get in there because we're in the attic, and I've got open vents up here and it does get dusty, but I may put that on in the future. I made sure to add a second drip loop to my antenna wire here just so it comes down a little bit lower than the miner, in case any water happens. It's never going to, but in case any water comes down this, it drips off here and doesn't get to the miner. And same with this cord. I always try to make all my cords lower in case any water does come across the ceiling by any chance. It drips off the bottom, doesn't drip to the miner. Now I have to say, I like this setup. I like what I've done here. I did my second fan blowing out of the vent here. I just screwed, you know, 1 5/8 drywall screw. I left the pads on the inside, and this is just pointed out here to help it, you know, vent out some hot air in the summertime. The only thing is with these AC Infinity fans is, I don't know if you guys can hear that. Like, it already sounds bad. This one especially. Hasn't been in here 20 minutes. But I'd say that's a successful install. I like it. I think this thing has everything it needs now. I can't really think of anything else to do to it. Got a wise plug over here so you can power cycle it from anywhere in the world. Ethernet, antenna. Antenna's grounded. We got cooling. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, please leave it in the comments and I'll be sure to respond. Thanks for watching.